You're not swimming fast enough. Let me explain. You're not swimming with enough specificity to improve your performance. And in this video, I'm gonna share with you how you can swim faster, how you can take your swimming to the next level. And over the course of the video, I'm gonna walk you through all the different variables that make up your swimming performance. And if you've plateaued or maybe you're not improving, I'm gonna break down why that might be. And at the end of the video, I'm gonna explain how you can fix that. Let's go ahead and get right into it. When I explain you are not swimming with enough specificity to improve your performance, I underlined performance because that's what brought you to this video. You're trying to swim faster. You're trying to improve. If you're not trying to improve, I don't know why you're watching this video, but if you are, you're in the right place. So let's keep moving. Now I put a box around specificity because this is really the main thing that prevents people from improving, or it slows down the rate at which that you can improve. Now I put an arrow here and I broke down a few different variables that make up this specificity. Now I want to go through each of these just briefly, but I want to really focus on one of them, and that is intensity. And I have a whole beautiful chart here that I'm going to break down, and you guys really need to pay attention to that. So feel free when we get there to pause the video and really take it all in. But let's go through all of these different specificity variables so that way you understand where we're coming from. So the first one is duration. This simply means how long a workout is. So the duration could be 60 minutes, it could be an hour and a half, it could be 120 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. That's referring to the duration of the swim. If you swim for 5 minutes, you can only get so much work done. And if you swim for 2 hours, you have more room to work with. But that's just one variable when it comes to improving your swimming. Another variable is your training density. Now the density is how much swimming you're doing in a given period of time. This is how you improve your capacity. So for example, if you have 60 minutes to swim and you swim 3,000 meters in that 60 minutes, that's a much higher density than only swimming 1,000 meters inside of the 60 minutes. You can have two athletes doing a different workout or maybe the same workout with different intervals, and you have a different swimming density. Now another variable is variety. Now this really means all the different strokes that you could be swimming. You could also do different variety of distances within a workout. So are you doing shorter sets like 50s and 25s and 100s? Or maybe you're doing longer sets like 100s, 200s, 300s, 500s. Another variable to variety is the type of stroke you're doing. So if you're doing a lot of kicking, individual medley, swimming all the strokes, butterfly, backstroke, breaststroke, freestyle, side stroke, underwater, the fifth stroke, all that good stuff would fit under variety, and that's an important variable to consider for specificity. Remember, if you want to get faster at a specific stroke, you probably need to train that specific stroke. So if you want to be good at the 200 breaststroke, you're going to need to swim some breaststroke, and that's where variety comes in. Now another one is progression. Now progression is simply going from a certain state to a future state and progressing to that path. So what that means is, let's say you're training for a 200 breaststroke, so you do sets that really build over time to get you closer to a 200 breaststroke end result. So maybe in the beginning of the season, you have a progression where you do some technique work, and then a few months later, you're at the middle of the season and you start to build volume, and then a few weeks or months later, you add more intensity and speed and shorter specific things, and that all leads into progression. And you want to have a progression even if you're not competing, if you're just trying to get better at practice, if you're trying to improve your fitness, if you're doing test sets, all of that's really important, and it all fits into progression. That's really, really important. We have equipment utilization. I abbreviated here, but equipment is your fins, paddle, snorkel, pull buoy, kickboard, parachutes, power tower, anything that you can think of that augments the way that you swim all natural. I like to call it all natural when you swim without equipment. Now that doesn't mean you swim naked. You are gonna have a swimsuit, cap, and goggles. I don't count those, but all natural means no equipment, and when you're not going all natural, that means you're using some piece of equipment. And adding in that equipment designed specifically to your goals can help you improve your performance. Another one is focus. So what are you actually focusing on? This might be the first one here. They're kind of out of order, but your focus is, what is your goal? Are you trying to improve your endurance? Are you trying to improve your speed? Do you want to swim the 200 IM, the 400 IM, the 1500 meter freestyle? And having that focus really allows everything else to lead towards that specific goal. So like I mentioned, this is actually probably the most important to start with, because if you don't have focus, you don't really know where you're going. But for this video, we're actually focusing on intensity, because I believe this is probably the biggest area of why swimmers plateau and they don't get any faster, or the rate of progression slows down significantly because of this mismanagement of intensity. And that's why I have it highlighted, and that's what we're going to talk about for the rest of the video. So all of these different variables are important. We want to start with focus. I'm just going to draw an arrow here. We want to put that as the first thing that you should pay attention to. What is your goal? What are you trying to do? And then from there, all these other variables fall underneath it. But I think the biggest room for improvement for most swimmers is actually focusing on intensity. Because if you just go to the pool and you swim the same speed all the time, regardless of your distance and using equipment, and your heart rate kind of stays the same, your muscles don't get any engagement beyond just going back and forth, that's why you're plateauing and that's why you're swimming slow. So let's break down all the different zones that we have in swimming. And if you follow along in the MySwimPro app, for example, every single set, including the workout that we're about to talk about, has these different effort levels broken down for you. They're even color coded. Look at how beautiful this is, all these different colors. So that's what we're going to talk about right here. So we have 7 different zones. And if you come at this from a scientific perspective, what we're talking about is energy metabolism. And so we could actually break this long and complicated chart, which I'm going to break down for you, into 2 different components. So one of them is aerobic and the other is anaerobic. And so for those of my science peeps, let me know down below in the comments if you're the nerd. And being a nerd is okay. I'm a swim nerd. Fellow swim nerds unite. You have the aerobic zones, which would be recovery, EN1, EN2, and EN3. These are well understood in the swimming community at large, and EN just stands for endurance. So we have endurance 1, endurance 2, endurance 3. These are all aerobic. I'm going to put A, E, and then you have SP1, SP2, SP3, and these, that means sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, and these are anaerobic. So without getting too much into the science, this is just how your body works with the energy systems that you have, and that's why you feel certain ways based on how hard you go, and we're going to talk about heart rate in just a little bit. So when you're doing a set, every single set should have an intentional, focus, specificity, intentional focus on an effort level. So for the scope of this video and what we do in the MySwimPro app, we actually call these effort levels. So for example, EN1 is called moderate. EN2 is called endurance. So we don't really refer to it as EN1, EN3, SP2, whatever. We use best average, threshold, race pace, sprint. These are the different effort levels, and that's how hard you should think about going in that specific set. And every single set has a different effort level associated to it, and that's how you can get the most significant gains in your swimming. It's how you can swim faster, it's how you can swim with more efficiency. It will be a little bit more difficult because you are applying more intensity and variation of that intensity in the actual workout. So I'm going to break down each of these and give you an example set and follow along to make sure that you understand how each set progresses. So this won't take a long time. Just want to go through each set. The first one is REC. This stands for recovery. This is very basic. The effort level is easy, and the set duration, really this could be infinity. You should be able to hold this for the rest of your life. If you're just going to go for an easy stroll in the pool, you're swimming in this recovery mode. Your heart rate is less than 60% of your max. So if your max heart rate is like 200 beats per minute, you're basically just floating through. Now, if you're a beginner swimmer, it might be very difficult to go any duration without your heart rate going above 120, 130 beats per minute. And that's okay, especially depending on your age. So don't really worry about that if you're a beginner swimmer, but just know that for the recovery and even EN1, this is a pace that you can just go a really long time. If you think about it from a work to rest ratio, it's about 2 to 1. That means you're working for 2 and you're resting for 1. That's the ratio of work to rest. And an example set would be like doing a 400 freestyle. Again, if you're a beginner, you might get your heart rate up pretty high if you're doing a 400. But for a more experienced swimmer, doing a 400 freestyle and your target time might be 5 minutes when your rest interval is on the 7 minutes. So you'd have 2 minutes of rest on a 5-minute pace. And this is for cool down recovery sets. And we'll talk about that in the workout example that we have. Now, the second energy zone, effort level, is called moderate. And this is EN1, and the set duration is something over 15 minutes. So this is really for your warm-up sets, your drill sets, something you could do for about 15 minutes, even longer. And your percent heart rate max is between 60 and 75%. So you're starting to put in a little bit of work, but you're not killing yourself. You could maintain this for maybe 30 minutes or so. The work to rest ratio is 3-to-1. An example set would be 4 100s freestyle on the 140, and you're gonna pace hold basically 115. Again, warm up and drills. Next up, we have EN2, and this is endurance. You're gonna do a bulk of your training in moderate endurance and threshold. And so endurance is 10 to 40 minute sets, so about half an hour of swimming, maybe a little bit less. Your heart rate is in 70 to 85%. An example set would be 4 100s freestyle on the 130. You're gonna hold a 112. So you notice the amount of rest that you're getting is maybe 10, 15, 20 seconds, 4-to-1 work to rest. And I like to call this the cruise pace. So you should feel like you're cruising, but you're certainly working. Then we have threshold. And remember, in the MySwimPro app, all of these are color coded, so it makes it a lot easier to recognize and really break it down. But this is an overview of how each set is constructed. So let's talk about threshold. You're really only able to do this for 6 to 30 minutes. 30 minutes if you're a very, very in-shape swimmer, you have a lot of endurance, a lot of capacity training, but you might only be able to hold this for 5 to 10 minutes. This is your classic short rest interval. So in this example, 4 100s freestyle on the 120. Your goal time is 110. You're maybe only getting 5 to 10 seconds rest. The work to rest ratio is a 5-to-1. So as you can see, you're really pushing yourself. Your heart rate is going to be anywhere from 75 to 90% of the max. You're going to drift to the higher end of that the longer you're pushing yourself in this effort level. And that concludes the aerobic segment of our effort levels. Now we start to transition into anaerobic, and you'll see the difference in the duration as well as the heart rate as well. So let's break it down. SP1, I like to call best average, and these sets are anywhere from 2 to 15 minutes. So they're really not that long, but they're gonna be pretty painful because you're really working hard. Your heart rate is between 80 and 90%. Your work to rest ratio is 1-to-1. So an example set would be 850s freestyle on the minute. Your target time is 30 seconds. So you're working for 30 seconds, you're resting for 30 seconds. 850s on the minute will take 8 minutes, and that's a good example of best average. And this is basically the fastest that you can hold, or it can be called strong. And you're not sprinting, but you're not going moderate either. You're going at a pretty high intensity. If we want to go to the next level, now we're talking about SP2, and that's a race pace. So race pace is anywhere from 4 to 12 minutes, probably less than that. I'm actually going to drop that from a 4 to a 2. Your heart rate is anywhere from 85 to 95%. Your work to rest ratio is now 1-to-2. So what that means is, here's an example. You're going 450s freestyle on the 130, and you're gonna try and average faster than you did on the best average, which maybe is a 28 if your best average was a 30. And this is your max pace. Key emphasis on pace, because the next one gets a little confusing. So the SP3 version of that is called sprint. And it's like, well, what's the difference between race pace and sprint? So I'm going to talk to you about that. Basically, a race pace is a pace. So it's the maximum pace that you can hold. And normally you're going to do that for 50s or 100s. A sprint is your absolute maximum. And this is really non-negotiable in terms of effort level. So in race pace, you might actually need to conserve for a 50 or 100 because you're doing multiple repetitions of that. When you're doing a sprint, it's a 1-to-3 work rest ratio. Your heart rate is basically the max. So you're really pushing yourself to the absolute limit. And an example set might be 150 freestyle or 125 freestyle. Coach has got the stopwatch. It really is an absolute all-out effort. And by really having this variation between all of these different effort levels, especially in SP 1, 2, and 3, yes, the workout is going to be harder. Yes, you're going to feel weird in the water. You're going to feel like you're going to drown. You don't want to drown, but that is really what it takes to get to that next level of performance. And if you're plateauing, it's probably because you're not applying yourself in this manner. Now, I want to break down this specific set that I have written out. Now, this you can follow along in the MySwimPro app. I call this the effort level variance. It's a beautiful 3,000 distance workout. It's going to take about 60 minutes. You can modify up or down. Keep in mind, the intervals that you see on the screen are personalized based on our algorithm in the app, and it's designed based on your swimming profile. So keep that in mind. Your intervals will look different. You can scale the workout up and down. Here's an example of our warm-up. We have a 300 freestyle in EN1, and that gets us an interval of 5 minutes. You can also see what the goal time is on each of these sets. Then we have 650s kick, 4 100s IM in EN2, both of those. Then we're gonna move into the preset of 4 100s freestyle on the 115. Now this is in EN3, so this is short rest. This is on the 115. We're really trying to put it to work. You're not gonna get a lot of rest. Then we have a 300 pull, EN2, and then the main set is 2 rounds where we're gonna work through all the different SPs. Those are all the anaerobic effort levels. We're gonna go 450s free SP1, 250s freestyle SP2, and then 150 freestyle SP3. Then we have a 100 freestyle recovery. Now we're gonna do that 2 rounds, so on round number 2, we're doing the same thing. So I'm gonna explain it without using the fancy language. I'm gonna use the effort level acronyms. So we're gonna go 450s best average, 250s race pace, and then 150 sprint. Then we have a 100 recovery. Now the cool down is 850s freestyle in EN1, and this workout puts those on a nice easy interval that you get a lot of rest, but you're still actively moving and recovering. Like I mentioned, the intervals here are personalized to you, and we use different colors in the MySwimPro app, a little bit different than some of the methods that you've seen maybe at the University of Michigan, John Urbanchek color system. Slightly different colors, but same overall concept of being able to apply different effort levels to different swimming sets, because that is the thing that's gonna take your swimming to the next level. Now, if you've made it this far into the video, I wanna thank you for your time, but I want to give you guys a special opportunity to train with me through the MySwimPro app, and you can train with Ferris down below in the link in the description, and that way you can get access to the MySwimPro coach, which has our powerful training algorithm that allows you to get these personalized training plans and workouts right there in the MySwimPro app, which is available for iPhone and Android, and you can sync with your Apple Watch or your Garmin smartwatch. So if you want to take advantage of that, make sure you check out the link down below, and I wish you guys the very best and happy swimming. Bye.